Hello, everyone. I am Deann Jones. I'm the project director for the Strong Readers Act here in the state of Oklahoma. And I am going to be going over our end of the year survey report. There are a few changes in it this year. We have a couple extra questions that were not asked previously if you have filled this report out before. So we're just going to go over and give a little guidance on that. I'm going to share my screen and go ahead and fill out a sample report with you today. Once you log into single sign-on, you will need to click into the Strong Readers Act survey. At the top, you will enter your county number and your district number, and then select from the drop-down the site that you are wishing to fill this report out for, because this report is filled out at the site level. So I have just a sample district that I am going to be working with today and putting in some fictional numbers just to show you how to do this. So after you select your site, you're going to select end of the year report, this tab right here in the middle. And this is the report we're going to be filling out today. So the first part is just contact information, and this would just be the person who is filling it out or the person who that we would be able to contact if we had questions regarding your report. And this would just be a good contact number for them. And then an email of the person that we would be able to contact if we have any questions. The next section is about your universal screener. So you will notice, if you have done this before, that there is one thing that is different. If you are a site that does not serve all grade levels, K through 3, this time, for the first time, any grade levels that you do not serve will be grayed out, and you will not have to enter information for that grade level. And that's that way on every question on this survey. As we'll move through, you'll see that you will not have a choice for grade levels that are not served by your site. So for the district site that I'm looking at right now, this site serves K1 and 2. So you'll notice that the 3rd grade, it automatically put no assessment required for that grade because that grade is not being served by this site. So if I am using a different assessment for different grades, I would go enter them each on the grade level. So for example, if my kindergarten was using the ELQA, I could click that for kinder, and then maybe my 1st grade and 2nd grade are both using Amira. I would have to enter for each grade level as such. And then you would move on to the next section. But if you are using the same screener for all grades served by your site, you can just click this right here at the top that says the same universal screening assessment was administered site-wide. And if you click that, then it's only going to give you a drop down where you'll only select one. And I'm going to go select that they did Amira site-wide. And then you won't have to put it in by grade level. So the only reason you would have to select one for each grade is if you are not using the same screener for each grade at your site. But if you're using the same one site-wide, you can click this and just enter it one time. Same thing on the next one. If I am using the same screener for characteristics of dyslexia site-wide, I would just click this, and then I would only have to go enter it one time that I'm using Amira site-wide. Okay. Next question is the number of teachers trained to administer your screening assessment and the number of teachers who administered the screening assessment. These very well could be the same exact number, but you may have a case where we trained 15 teachers to administer the assessment and only 12 of them administered it this time. So those numbers would probably be pretty close, but they might not be exactly the same at your district. So enter those. And then we will move down to the student literacy intervention plan section of the report. Now we're going to move on to the student literacy intervention plan section. At the beginning, you will notice that the numbers are already in for you. So these are the initial BOY numbers that you entered in your beginning of the year report. So for this school, they had 37 students in kindergarten who scored below the 40th percentile level at the beginning of the year. And then they're going to enter for the next columns, the entered program section. The entered program is this number of students who are identified as not meeting the grade level target after the BOI was submitted. It could be current students who were testing on level at BOI and then they tested below later in the year, or it could be students who moved into the school after the BOI and scored below level. So for this school, I'm going to put that they had 2 students either enter the school by moving in or scoring lower later in the year. And then the next column is exited. And this is the students who were identified as not meeting the grade level target and moved away from the school after you'd already submitted your numbers. So I'm going to put that they had 1 student move away. And then the next one is how many students completed your program on level. So this will be students who were below level at some point in the year. You had them on a slip, you were doing interventions, and then now they're testing on level. So I'm going to say that this school had 20 students who were below level, but have made, with interventions, have made gains, and now they are testing on level. You'll notice that once I click out of this, this number is not changing. The completed program not on level. It will automatically adjust for you. It just doesn't do it until we get to the very end of the report. Once we complete the sample report and I push save, I'll scroll back up to the top and show you that this number goes back in and accounts for your move-ins and move-outs and how many students were on level. And then it tabulates the number of students who were left not on level. This next column is brand new this year. This is the improved, and this is the number of students who improved 1 or more tiers during the school year. So things for you to consider when you're tallying this one is we are considering improvement as students who went up 1 or more tier. So this would be so we can't just say it's students who were on a slip and went off of a slip. Those students would count if they were on a tier and they moved up to tier 1. We would definitely count those. But this could also be your students who were tier 3 and made gains and now they're on tier 2, or they were tier 2 and they made gains and now they're on that tier 1 plus differentiation. We would count those students here too. So I'm going to say that this school had 30 students who showed improvement by improving 1 or more tier during the school year. And then I would just go through and enter my numbers for my other grades. I'm going to say that they had 0 students move in and out first, and they have 30 complete on level, 30 show improvement. Do the same for my other grades. Then we will move down to the section for risk for characteristics of dyslexia. This would be the number of students screened. So for example, on this school, when I'm looking at kindergarten, I know that they turned in 37 students at the beginning of the year as testing below level, and they should have screened all of those students for characteristics of dyslexia. So I'm going to go ahead and put that they screened 37. This number could be higher than this number up here. And that would be in cases of like, if you had students move in and you tested them for characteristics of dyslexia. It could also be students who maybe scored above that 40th percentile, but you had a teacher who was concerned that they may be showing some risk and you wanted to go ahead and screen them. You could count them in this number as well. And then you're going to say how many of the ones that you screened you found to be at risk. And then of those students that were at risk, how many are receiving interventions during your school day and by school personnel. And then the last column is intervention outside of school. And this would be the number of students who are receiving interventions for characteristics of dyslexia outside of the school day or by a private tutor at any time during the day. So this would be like parents are saying, we're taking them to, this tutoring center on Saturdays or after school, or even if they're coming and checking them out and taking them somewhere, or they hire someone who comes in separately. Anybody who's receiving interventions outside of school services we're going to count them right here. So I'd go back and do the same for all my other grades. Moving on to the last section of the report, and it is website requirement information. This is a brand new section, new this year. This year is the first year that we are having website requirements that you will have to post by September 1st for regarding information from the previous school year. And this is some information, this is part of the information that will be on that, that you will be also submitting to us in this report. So for the first one, we're looking at newly enrolled students. So this is the number of currently enrolled students who have not been continuously enrolled in your district since October 1st of the previous school year. Things to consider when you're looking at this is students must be enrolled by October 1st for it to count as a full year of enrollment. So if you have students who came to you last year in November, December, last school year would not count as a full year. So if you had them from November 1st of last year, and then you had them this school year, they would count as newly enrolled because they have not been with you continuously for 2 full school years. Another thing is that we're only counting continuous enrollment. So if you had a student who was with you and then left somewhere and then came back, they would count as newly enrolled because they have not been with you continuously for 2 full school years. Another thing to consider is pre-K. We are counting pre-K in this if it is offered by your district. So you would not have all of your kindergartners being newly enrolled, because if any of those kindergartners attended pre-K in your district, then that could count as a year of enrollment too. So they would have had all of pre-K, all of kinder. They would not be newly enrolled. So when you're looking at this, you're looking at this school year and the previous one. So for this right now, I'd be looking at 24-25 and 23-24. So for this example, any student who has not been with me continuously enrolled since October 1st of 2023, then they would be considered newly enrolled, and I would enter them into part of this number. So for my sample school, I am going to say that they have 20 newly enrolled kindergartners, 15 first graders, and 30 second graders. Moving on to the next column, and a new question for us is proficient. This is the total number of students who have demonstrated proficiency, which we're defining as 60th percentile rank, on the screener at the BOY, MOY, or the EOY. The reason we did not just say note students you have sent a notice of proficiency to, number one, we don't send notices of proficiency to kindergartners. And the second reason is that a student may not have got a notice of proficiency at BOY or MOY, but now at EOY, they are scoring at the 60th, at or above the 60th percentile. You're not required to send a notice of proficiency at EOY, but we do want them counted in this number. So we're saying the total number of students who demonstrated proficiency at the BOY, the EOY, MOY, or EOY. Okay, so let's put in some numbers. Another thing I want to just point out to consider on this one is on this first column, we're considering all students who were scoring at the 60th, regardless of IEP status, because we're going to get into that in the next column. But on this one, it doesn't matter their IEP status. If it is a student who demonstrated 60th percentile proficiency at BOY, MOY, or EOY, we're going to count them right here. So I'm going to say they had 15 kindergartners, 20, 25 second graders. Now moving on to the last column, and this is our EOY proficient. This would be the number of students who are on an IEP and demonstrated proficiency, defined with the 60th percentile rank, on the screener at the BOY, the MOY, or the EOY. Things to remember when you're doing this one is, once again, that we're defining proficiency as a 60th percentile rank. And then let's talk about the IEPs. For a student to count in this category, their IEP has to have reading goals or it can be a speech IEP if that speech IEP has language goals in it. We don't want to count our speech IEPs that are articulation goals only, but if they do have language goals, then we would count them in this count as well. So for my numbers, I'm going to put that I had 3 there, 5 here, 7 here. And another thing to consider is these students will be counted here twice. So this 3 that I have for IEP proficient here, these 3 are also included in this 15. So yes, your IEP students who are demonstrating proficiency, they will be counted in this number as well as this number, because this is your total number of students who demonstrated. Okay, so we are to the last section. When you go down here and click save, then I can go back to the top and I will show you that it adjusted these numbers for us now. It took into account my 2 who moved out. I'm sorry, my 2 who moved in, my 1 who moved out, and then it also took away the 20 who completed on level. And then we are left with 18 students who completed below level. So once this is all done, you are finished with your part. You would just need to notify your administrator that it is ready for superintendent certification. Once all of the sites have completed all theirs, the superintendents have to certify, and then this information will be sent to us. Thank you. And as always, if you are having any other questions, you can contact us. You can contact us with the email that is literacy@sde.ok.gov. And if you have any questions, just let us know. Thank you.